I've developed insomnia. Oh, my last recording wasn't that great. I noticed towards the end, you could definitely tell I was falling asleep. But, new day, new beginning, blah blah blah. Guess I just gotta try harder. So life is fucking crazy, huh? Seems like you can't talk to anyone without getting a rude fucking response. There's no convincing anyone of anything, or even if you try to listen to somebody to understand them, they see that as a weakness. They're not going to listen to you. They're not going to listen to me. They're not going to listen to anybody. It's kind of unfortunate how little. Maybe it's always been like this. I mean, people have always been at each other's throats, right? I've never been one to shy away from the fact that I might be wrong. Even when, I was younger, I always pretended. You gotta find any reason to be right. You can't be wrong because it's vulnerable, and then the other person wins. It's not supposed to be about being right. It's supposed to be about learning the truth. If something is wrong with me, I think I'd like to know. I would think I'd like to mull it over in my head and try to find what's real in what other people say. Sometimes people are just being assholes. Sometimes they're not. I feel like everybody's intention is to always be an asshole. I gotta win. I gotta win the argument. It doesn't matter what it says about me. It doesn't matter what anything really means. I gotta win. And it's hard dealing with people like that. Because it's not about winning for me. It can't be. I've practiced for so many fucking years to make truth come before my ego. On numerous occasions, they have seen that, and they use it to their advantage. Even my dentist. I know what's going on in my fucking mouth. You can see patterns when things are falling to pieces, you know. And you know when there's an easier way to go about something. But when they see bad teeth, they see fucking dollar signs. Oh no, we can repair even if you've got a single fucking tooth left. Oh, well, but what do you know? Did you go to dentist school? It doesn't matter if you see the contradictions in everything else everybody says. 'Cause you're wrong. 'Cause they're professionals, right? Once upon a time I had an abscess in my face that was so bad, I probably was dying, maybe. I know I was dying of pain. Just x-rays and MRIs and on and on and on for almost a year. Can't figure out why I'm getting this pain. I had a neurologist. I had dentists. I had fucking all these different kinds of doctors. And they all performed the same basic shit on me. And out of all those times, one dentist with just the same fucking tools as everybody else. Oh yeah, you have an abscess in your face. It says it right there on the x-ray that took less than 20 minutes. And I'm supposed to trust anybody? Trust their judgment above my own? Trust people who are walking contradictions? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about you. Unless you got real lucky, no professional you interact with gives a shit. Your doctor doesn't care, your fucking car mechanic doesn't care. If they can make a fucking buck off you, they will. And don't let them make you feel like, oh, you watch too much online videos. Oh, because You think you need a second opinion. That must mean you think the world is fucking flat. Fuck you. Professionals are just as fucking lazy as everybody else. But they believe they're so important. I bet you my primary care physician can't perform surgery. What are you there for? I worked at group homes before. I know how to take fucking blood pressure. What do I need you for? To make me feel stupid? To make me feel like I can't use logic to figure out some things? You don't need to go to fucking college to learn how to fucking think for yourself. As long as you're investigating. Just investigate. Look at the clues that are in front of you. Don't put yourself in there or your pre-existing beliefs. If you think that up is down, do the work to find out. Everything should be a theory. Everything should just be a running theory until the day you die. Always leaving room for improvement. And a lot of these professionals, they know what they can get away with because they have a degree. And they do. Oh, I'm so smart. You ever read or you ever know someone who has read the title of an article and suddenly they know everything there is to know about that subject? They're no different from anybody. Everybody's like that. The path of least resistance, you just find where you can fucking coast. Unless there's a deep-rooted passion for a subject or information, or it's just a fucking job to them that they can hold over your head. Fuck everything, right? But I hope that people are coming to conclusions by themselves and not just reading something or watching a video and going, well, I trust this person, so they must be right. So many little things that get missed when you do that. The world's going to hell. The world has been in hell, and I think it's time we get it out. I got snake oil for all your ailments. You just have to trust me. Let's read a little bit, huh? Enough of this bullshit. So last time, we talked about the Whitney Museum and their PC Master Race exhibitions, their art shows, and men who look at things while they work. You know, I'd love to know where these motherfuckers get off. These men against rape fucking people. Should you decide what I listen to if I want to hear how the construction workers think when they make a little at me or whatever? Who the fuck are they to tell a woman what they should and shouldn't be listening to? What is rape culture? What is your fucking organization to represent fucking me? To represent anyone? Can't you just be a man against rape? Can't I just be a woman against rape without joining a fucking organization? Can't we just fucking talk to each other and decide what we do and do not like? No, because you got fucking the NAACP, you got the fucking the LGBT blah blah blah, you got the fucking women against this and that and the other thing. You don't fucking speak for me. You shouldn't speak for anyone. You cause the stereotypes. You cause the generalizations. You cause the fucking uproars. Can we just talk about things? Can we just throw theories out there? I'm tired of fucking blue and red both telling each other and themselves and me what should and shouldn't be part of society. What should and shouldn't be part of the government and our lives. What should be legal. I hear red things and I'm like, yeah, a lot of that makes sense. However, don't tell me what to do with my body. Blue side, I know things suck and they gotta get better, but guess what? Everything that's wrong, you're not fucking taking care of. Just so happens to be that a lot of people on either side can, especially the blue right now, do something about the issues, and yet they make it worse. Look at San Francisco. How did that happen? If everything was going fine under your fucking rule who are they blaming the shit on? Just anybody they can who can't speak for themselves? Let's make a fucking organization so that there's a powerful person that puts words in my fucking mouth then. Everything is so fucking backwards. And hopefully, we could turn it forward. I think I got some clues. I think, as we progress through things, I think I have some ideas, but I'm gonna need your fucking help. I got theories, and they need to be implemented. For instance, take 10 minutes out of your day. For example, if you want to do this with me, take 10 minutes out of your day to watch something that you don't like. To watch something that you disagree with. And just try to see that side in the best way that you can. Try to see where they're coming from. Try to see if there's any good points there. Because I bet you, we start taking from all these extreme sides of the fucking scale ideas and find a center. I think we could do something. But it's gonna take people admitting truths to themselves. And that's hard. It's hard to accept another person's way of life. It's hard to accept everything. We're confused. So, on to the next column. It's called, Sir, You're a Murderer. Nobody rioted at the 6th International AIDS Conference in San Francisco. Hey, speak of the fucking devil. This was a big blow to AIDS activist Larry Kramer, who had called for, quote, massive disruption and, quote, a fucking riot. So I phoned him to see how he was coping with the bad news. I don't have a lot of information behind this. I'm not sure where it comes from, but let's just read it and see what's going on. Maybe I could do some research. Why would there be... Nobody rioted at the 6th International AIDS Conference in San Francisco. And there was an AIDS activist who wasn't happy about that. I wonder what the AIDS conference is about. Stopping AIDS? I mean, who has a conference to perpetuate AIDS? I'll tell you who, bug chasers, but, that's a whole other thing. I wouldn't try to get cancer because my mother got it. That's for fucking sure. I knew nothing would happen. That's why I stayed home, said Kramer, who was the founder of ACT UP, the anti-AIDS group. Well, that sounds... So you're both anti-AIDS? With Kramer absent, ACT UP's biggest cheese in San Francisco, Peter Staley, was able to present himself as a moderate. Staley actually got himself invited to address the conference, even though ACT UP was carrying on as usual, tying up traffic here and there, baiting police, and drowning out a harmless little talk by the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Why would you do that? There are better ways to go about that. Why interfere with people who have nothing to do with anything? People always want to hurt instead of just talk. Why you gotta hurt somebody? Why you gotta rile up police? Why you gotta tie up traffic? Ah, we play a little good cop and bad cop around here, said Kramer, the perennial bad cop. Kramer didn't seem to mind that I had referred to his group as a bunch of gangsters in this space a few months back. ACT UP began as Greenwich Village's answer to the Red Guards. It is cloning itself in other unsuspecting cities, so now you don't have to move to Manhattan or Washington to have your rights trampled and your church invaded. You can get it done right at home in places like Minneapolis and Oklahoma City. There's got to be a backstory to this that I'm missing. Since Kramer is stressing what a sane and reasonable group ACT UP is, I remind him of what his people did to Stephen Joseph, the former New York City health commissioner. Joseph adjusted estimates of AIDS cases down a bit, so ACT UP tossed paint on his residence, occupied his office, harassed his family with phone calls, shouted down his public speeches, and hounded him for weeks everywhere he went, even in restaurants. Interesting. Maybe if it goes down, that means you get less funding or something? I mean, that's kind of how the fucking world works. Funding is ridiculous. So much money wasted everywhere. Another victim of ACT UP told me, if you get on their wrong side, they're hell-bent on silencing you. They're a youth cult, a bunch of spoiled, angry children with no understanding of politics or the mechanisms of American democracy. Ain't that the truth? And all this stuff, most protesting is youth without a care, without a cause. But this is not Larry Kramer's view. What do you want me to say? Joseph was a very hated man who cut off all dialogue with our community. We did it as a last resort. Kramer said that many of the people ACT UP used to attack are now allies. Take Ellen Cooper of the FDA, he says. We were calling her a murderer only last year. This year she gave us a lot of credit. Yes, but some of these murderers turned allies seem to be suffering from the Stockholm Syndrome. Nothing concentrates the mind of an AIDS researcher quite so strongly as the vision of a career threatened, an office occupied, or a family harassed for weeks or months. Even Stephen Joseph has been saying nice things about his tormentors, like a newly released stewardess describing the many endearing qualities of her hijackers. Larry, have you guys invaded any churches lately? I asked politely. This is a veiled reference to ACT UP's expedition into St. Patrick's Cathedral. Gays stormed the church, tossing condoms and screaming to interrupt Sunday Mass. At least one of the maddened invaders stomped on a consecrated communion wafer. At the time, I wondered what the gay reaction would be if some burly guys from the Knights of Columbus busted into an ACT UP meeting, slinging rosaries into people's faces and stomping on whatever the membership holds sacred. Maybe even an Avedon portrait of Larry Kramer. When has fighting fire with fire ever worked? I understand that the church is bullshit, but are you really making a point by being a terrorist? I mean, those people who go to church, they don't know any better. A majority of them probably don't know any better. They don't think any better. The church is a release from the pain that we feel in life. It seems to me that sometimes pain goes so deep in people that they can disappear as a result of it. The church takes that pain and brings you to a crazy Zen-ish state. Watching this guy, Chode Munch, on YouTube. He has a lot of compilations of psychics being bullshitters, religious people being bullshitters, and a lot of that possessions, those fucking women who were eating the grass, people who speak in tongues. It's a way to separate yourself from your pain and put something magical in its place. It's never going to work for real. That's why everything is still fucked up. That's why people are still feeling that pain and suffering that pain and being a reaction to that pain and causing that pain on other people. But this isn't the way to do it. Why do you gotta throw shit at people? Why did the Christians have to kill fucking people for centuries? For wars and it was all... There's a difference between the higher-ups in religion and just the people who are trying to not feel pain. You're not convincing anybody who makes a difference. Why don't you go do that at the fucking Vatican? Do it! And while you're at it, can you please fucking find all those secret hidey hole fucking manuscripts that they got? Let's read some of their fucking documents. They're fucked up. But it's the people high up that are fucked up. It's not these people. You want to make them fucking miserable? Why? What's the point? What are you gaining? If the point or the result is to make someone existentially miserable, you're fucking doing it wrong. Probably. And there's probably another way to go about it. Give it a try. Give it a try. Allow yourself to think that maybe there's another way, even if you're so fucking hell-bent on something. Ask yourself, how could there be another way? Investigate your surroundings instead of just staying inside your head. So, this and that, back and forth, eye for an eye. That was controversial and ACT UP, Kramer acknowledged. Things got out of hand at the cathedral, but in retrospect, you guys gave us the power by complaining so much. You turned us into an army of menacing guerrillas. Guerrillas like the fighters. G-U-E-R. I wanted to make a little side note after I edited this, because I don't think I got to the point with what I did say before I deleted it. There's an air of victimization in what he said. You guys gave us the power by complaining so much. I'm trying to think how that could make sense. It obviously says that you guys gave us the power by complaining so much. So there is an admittance of a power struggle. That it's not about finding a cure for AIDS, or there's not an understanding, there's fight. That's such a big thing to unpack. Things got out of hand at the cathedral. So that was controversial in ACT UP, their group. That caused, there was like ideologies or something that caused a schism in their organization. But you guys gave us the power by complaining so much. How was power transferred by complaining? And about what? Before or after they did the thing with the cathedral? Before they stormed in St. Patrick's Cathedral. So you took an opportunity. It's your fault. I'm the victim because you gave me the opportunity to storm a cathedral and throw condoms everywhere. You gave me the power to do that. I mean, if you were given a power to do something, you also have the power to not do it. And who's you guys? Who's you guys? I mean, it kind of ends there. I don't know. I think maybe he didn't question this sentiment because he was kind of confused himself. They were just kind of words put together. You guys gave us the power by complaining so much. You turned us into an army of menacing guerrillas. You turned. I don't know, but being angry doesn't really get many people the things they want. Children, maybe. But I don't think you should, I don't think you should give something to a child because they're complaining. Oh, well, I'm just going to get angry and I'm going to cry and that'll show them and then I'll get it because they don't want to deal with it. That's not the right way to go about things. That's why children do it and adults should not. And the adults should teach the children, hey, if you want something, how about you earn it? Using energy for crying and using energy to show that you deserve something. Two different things. I had such a twisted paragraph that I felt like, and I don't think I noticed it at the time, I think it's because I hadn't slept in days. I'm a victim because you turned me into something. Turned us into an army of menacing gorillas. You turned us into, so I'm a victim because you turned me into something. And yet, the way in which they turned them into an army of menacing gorillas is by giving them power. What kind of backwards ass? I mean, I guess, you shouldn't have let me do this thing, and then I wouldn't have done it, and then you're thinking, you know I'm irresponsible. I told you that I could use a knife. But then you let me use the knife. That's not fair. You gave me the power to say something that should have been fact. It's your fault that I cut my hand off. And that's the wrong attitude, because then you become a victim of your own power. How does that make any sense? That's almost like everybody hates themselves in a way. Either because they do bad things or they let the bad things in the world affect them in a way that causes them to do more bad things. So you're essentially becoming the thing that you wanted to fight to begin with. I've seen that in myself. Oh, I hate this and that. Everybody says, my one pet peeve is that I hate fucking liars. No, you don't. If you fucking lie, you don't hate liars. You don't hate them enough to not be them. You hate not knowing information. You hate other people lying to you, because those lies give them an advantage and takes away your advantage. If you hate liars, then you hate yourself. And that's what I think ends up happening. People end up hating themselves because it's a natural progression into a truth that's going to be there whether you like it or not. The truth exists outside of you. The world spins whether you exist or fucking not. The results of being something that you hate, that you convince yourself that you hate, or there are aspects of that thing that you hate, and you end up becoming it, you inevitably hate yourself. You have to hide the truth from other people and yourself, and lies compile and snowball, and it turns you into something. It's like a virus. So things got out of hand, but everybody's they gotta use that fucking butt, of course. In retrospect, you guys gave us the power by complaining so much. So who's you guys? Just everyone? Anybody who complains? You gave us the power by complaining so much. Shouldn't he be listening to his own words? You guys gave us the power by complaining so much. Could not the people they're protesting against say the same exact thing? Look at these fucking gorillas terrorizing churches. Don't listen to them. Listen to us. We're doing all the research that's necessary to figure out AIDS, and none of that money is going to waste. It's just so crazy how there's two points rubbing at each other. Two peepees sword fighting. They're both using each other's peepees to get themselves up. They're not even hard when they go running at each other. They're just these soft slugs just slapping each other around. They're riling each other up. You turned us into an army of menacing gorillas. You gave me a boner by slapping your boner against mine. Turned us into an army of menacing gorillas. Oh, what were you before? You are the same thing whether people perceive you that way or not. If you do a thing and then people say you're an asshole, you still did that same thing that people call you an asshole for. I mean, and that if that action is destructive, you still did that destructive thing whether people are complaining about it or not. You want your image, just whatever you do, to represent what you think you believe on the inside? And what does throwing condoms around in a church do? Gay people, because they might go to a Catholic church, they might follow that law, like, oh, I have AIDS, and I'm gay, but the church says you can't wear condoms. I don't think that's the way. I mean, if you're gonna go against a religion so fundamentally, then why would you keep the no condom thing? You can't impregnate a butt anyway. It's just chaos. Nobody knows what the fuck all the chaos is for. They see a battle and they want to win it. All these children, they see a fight and they want to win. Against all odds, Kramer and I are now getting along rather well. Oh, maybe you've been Stockholmed. I suggested mildly that the newly moderate ACT UP might want to reconsider its long-term commitment to phone harassment. After my original column on ACT UP, I got hissing late-night calls for 9 days. Most of them began with the word "sir" and ended up with the phrase "you murderer." So I could tell in a flash it was ACT UP. I mean, if you do anything like the Scientologists do, you might want to reconsider what you're doing, you know? You guys can dish it out, you should take it too, or just disconnect the phone, Kramer said. This is basically my own view, though I would prefer to be hissed at during daylight hours. My wife hates it when I chat with my sputtering detractors at 3 a.m. John, Kramer said, you could be the first conservative right-wing columnist to be a hero and tell what's really going on. The National Institute of Health wasted $1.5 billion of the taxpayers' dollars on 3 stupid AIDS clinical trials. And while they were doing it, another 17,000 people died. NIH is a bureaucratic nightmare, a swamp of incompetence. Well, isn't everything a fucking swamp of incompetence? How did we let China get so influential? Why are we wearing masks that are meant for spatters of blood? And once a few minutes pass while you're wearing it, you end up really being no different than not having a mask on. Oh, but it's to save other people. Yeah, well, while you're wearing that fucking mask that doesn't really do a goddamn thing, you're not respecting fucking personal space. Oh, well, I got the mask on. People can't hear me when I got my mask on with filters and blah, blah, blah. Face sealed, eyes sealed. And they want to come up real close to talk to me. Why don't you have me write it down or something instead? You shouldn't want somebody a foot in front of your face because you can't read their lips. It's probably better to talk 6 feet away, just saying. But people are treated like children, and people are acting like children. We can't just know to cover our mouths when we cough or to wash our hands. We got fucking... It's chaos. Antibacterial fucking shit everywhere. I'm sorry, but when did viruses become bacterial? Antibacterial things, from my knowledge, kills a good amount of bacteria that isn't necessarily a bad thing. So, RIP immune system. It's just Crazy. Of course, wash your fucking hands. But all these messages get fucking twisted. Everything is, you hear whatever people want you to fucking hear. People who have died in car crashes are being labeled as CCP virus deaths because everything is agended. So I'm guessing this guy, I mean, you go about it wrong. See, there's a balance to this. Hey, maybe you shouldn't run around throwing condoms in people's churches. But on the other hand, you got problems, but you can't, are you gonna ice a cut? Are you gonna bandage a headache? If you don't treat a problem with what will make the problem better, then what's the point? So the NIH is a bureaucratic nightmare, a swamp of incompetence, says Kramer. As a result of the sweetness and light in San Francisco, ACT UP will have more access to NIH committee meetings. I think everybody should have access to all the meetings. Because at least we could call out the bullshit. Let's just start from the straight bullshit. Oh, you say 100% of the proceeds are going to X, Y, and Z. And then that person happens to cash a check. You've lied. Just be fucking honest then. We just need some more honesty. Larry, does this mean you won't be screaming for violence anymore? No, there should have been violence in San Francisco, he said. A minute later, he talked friendly about the Irgun, the anti-British terrorist group that helped found Israel and blew up a lot of innocent people along the way. I read this part before. I must have. I said I wanted to look up this Irgun because the founding of Israel is very interesting. I'm not going to get fucking all Jewish agenda on you, but there's some interesting things. Israel fought Lebanon in the 90s. Was it the 90s or the 80s? Because there were, according to reports, Palestinian terrorist organizations or guerrilla glue, for fuck's sakes. There were like militias, like small things that somehow got into Lebanon, so Israel invaded Lebanon. It would be interesting to know, did they try to talk to the Lebanese government first before they started bombing the place? So much there, though. That's a whole other, that's like walking on fucking thin ice. Sometimes the crazy people have interesting things to say, but also running around, just with blaming the everyday man for anything is stupid. It's the government of Israel that has been so extreme for a while. I mean, what have they been around for 100? It's the 50s, so 70-ish years? And they pour that agenda onto their people. And so does America, and so does fucking Sweden, I bet. So does fucking Russia, so does fucking every goddamn country. Everything is... Let's start thinking for ourselves and saying, fuck the government. No taxation without fucking representation. It's 1776. Buy my colloquial silver. It'll make you a man. Fuck you, Alex Jones. Shape up. There's a lot of things that I had agreed with him to in the past. Like getting your fingerprint at the DMV. There's something about doing something to a person that you also do to criminals that really just gets my goat. However, lizard people, probably not real, but look at fucking... Oh, Lizzie the fucking 8th or whatever the fuck she is there in England. Oh god. Pedophilia. Stay on course. The anti-British terrorist group. That's not the NRA. NRA? IPA? Irish separatist group, ISG. Wow. It's only been like 20 years since they were in the news often, and I can't remember what they were called. I just watched Sons of Anarchy half a decade ago. What a stupid fucking ending to that thing. That was just complete chaos. Stay on course. We're reading a book. So, this guy who goes into churches and harasses people talks fondly about an anti-British terrorist group that helped found Israel. God damn. It's a twisted web we weave. I don't think the world needs a gay Ergen, Larry, I suggested mildly. If you stopped invading churches and terrorizing doctors' families, you might find you have more allies than you think. It's easy for you safe, straight guys to say that, he replied. Just picture what it's like if just about every one of your friends is dead of AIDS. Pause. There's a positive piece on me coming out in next week's People, he said. It will balance out your column. I tell him the column won't be that bad. For putting up with a hostile interviewer, he'll get his say. I just want to be loved, he said. Good grief. What a comment from a philosopher of rioting who dreams of a gay terrorist movement. No cynicism here about tough guy activists showing the human side. I just wished it expressed itself in more concern for other people's rights. True enough. Don't we all deserve to enjoy our life here on Earth? And when I say enjoy, I don't mean that you have to do anything that will negatively affect anyone else. I believe that if we keep our heads on straight, there is a way to enjoy life that won't hurt anybody else. Not in the ways we have been hurting each other. Death and destruction. And chaos. New column. Caffeine made me do it. In the dark ages, about 20 years ago, obscene phone callers were creeps who got their jollies by anonymously harassing women with heavy-breathing references to their private parts. Now, like Richard Berenson, who resigned as president of American University over his unusual phone habits, they get to go on Nightline to explain that they are blameless victims of an uncontrollable impulse disorder. Oh man, here we go, sex edition. Sex addition? Sex subtraction. Self-control. I was just trying to talk to somebody about that. Because he was a poser for thoughts, you know? It was like, oh, the world made me this way. Yeah, well, maybe if you just learn some self-control, even if it is very fucking hard in the environment that we live in right now, and the reality that we live in right now, try showing some self-control. You might find that you'll like having a single partner touch your dick every night. Instead of paying ridiculous amounts of money to fucking girls who don't even, sex edition. Sex division. I know it may come as a surprise to lots of people, but my husband and I, we do not watch porn. We get our jollies off enough with each other, and I think more people should be like that. There's a lot of this women's stuff that I think has a lot to do with it, but also men have been kind of dogs in the past, and they've been perceived as dogs. We gotta let them. It's a whole other fucking thing. Men, I think I said in the previous one, they have power. That can't be doubted. It is doubted by people, but it's simply not true. Incorrect. False. Men have ego and strength, and the focus to have more of that. Men play. Men play games with each other. Men play games with themselves. Men play games. There's a different way that they interact with the world than women do. Power was given to me, in a sense, by the man in my life. He fights for me. At least that's the goal. He works hard for me. Why not enjoy some passionate fucking lovemaking sessions with him? Even if you're not in the mood, even if... Get yourself in the mood. Enjoy it. You do the same shit. Oh, I gotta get up and go to work and this fucking sucks. It shouldn't be like that with the person that you want to spend your life with. In the most simplest of fucking terms, I do think women should put out more. But also men should expect it less. There's plenty of other things to do besides sex. But when you do it, make it worth it. Look into each other's eyes. Speak to each other. Say what you like, say what you don't like. It doesn't have to be, nothing has to ever be a fight. Because if it is, bada bing, bada boom, you got fucking sex addicts. I'm a victim of something because I want to say that I can't control myself. I can't control my smoking habits. And it's something that I should control, and it's something that I feel guilty about. I'm not a victim to fucking cigarette companies. Oh man, I do feel like a victim to Disney though. But we can get into that at another point. Maybe it'll even be mentioned in this book. I made a stupid mistake and I became addicted to something and I have to fix it. And when you start hurting people, like a cigarette addiction becomes drug addiction, or you'll end up hurting people. And if you're okay with hurting people to get what you want, something's probably wrong. At least, it's the theory. So, this guy, Richard Berenson, and people like him, they get to go on Nightline to explain that they are blameless victims of an uncontrollable impulse disorder. Berenson even hauled along a docile psychiatrist who argued plaintively that what a hard fucking name to say, that old B-boy, even hauled along a docile psychiatrist who argued plaintively that Berenson's little habit was a shadow attempt to repair a childhood problem, not a dry eye in the house. I mean, it's probably in a way true. It might be. Even if not for him, there's somebody. But you don't play victim. You talk about it and you share about it and what can we do to move forward from this? Not how do I live with my pain and get to do things that aren't good for me or other people. How do I progress instead of just stay in that childhood problem? Which again makes me feel like fucking talking about Disney. I've got a real bad fear of death. A fear that I remember feeling since before I started school. I would cry for hours and try to get somebody to explain to me what the fuck death was and where you go and what happens if my parents die and blah blah blah. Disney, teaching your children what life is without context since God knows fucking when. And there's parents also to blame in that, but big thing. Let's talk about these fucking sex addicts. So everybody's crying, I guess. Maybe. I mean, what house? Is this on Nightline? You can't see me cry in my house. Doesn't matter. These uncontrollable forces have been piling up at a record rate. As columnist Charles Krauthammer points out, we have Pete Rose's disorder, pathological gambling, 312.31 in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of American Psychiatry, Marionberry's disease, Marionberry's disease, alcoholism, 303.90, and Berenson's impulse, telephone scatologia, 302.90. Hot. What are you pooping right now? What are you poop? Do you poop on the phone? Another thing to look up? So many things to look up. Oh, man. The dread disease of caffeineism, 305.90, supine dependence on cola or coffee, has already been cited in a criminal case or two. We have inhalant abuse, 305.90, dependent on aromatic hydrocarbons, and solemn listings for difficulties of ordinary life, arithmetic and reading problems. A few years ago, the psychiatrists came within an inch of inventing a disease called paraphilic rapism, which would have been used by defense attorneys for every rapist in captivity. I mean, yeah, when you get to a certain point, where does it stop? Where do you have to look at the free will that you have and the control that you do have and start keeping yourself in check? When Saul Watchler, the chief judge of New York State's highest court, was arrested for extortion and threatening to kidnap the 14-year-old daughter of his ex-lover, many New Yorkers were under the impression that some crimes may have just been committed. Not so, according to John Money, a prominent sexologist and medical psychologist. In an op-ed piece in New York Newsday, Money wrote that Watchler was, quote, manifesting advanced symptoms of ... Clarenbalt-Kadinsky syndrome, CKS ... a devastating illness. Oh, well, getting fucked over by a lover, I mean, for one, will really fuck people up a lot. That all that divorce stuff. Some women using divorce as a way to gain capital. You know, fuck you. Learn to love each other. There are ways. We could figure it out. CKS is a disease that can be diagnosed from 300 miles away. Money is Professor Emeritus at Johns Hopkins University and Hospital in Baltimore. In fact, it's so easy to spot that the diagnoser need not even telephone the diagnosee or know much about him. All the diagnoser has to know is that the accused is blameless. In plain English, Money suggests that Watchler was irresistibly lovesick, that is, suffering helplessly under the spell of erotomania. It's a weird word, eroto, to describe love. I doubt it was love. I bet it was just selfishness. Me man, me want woman. Me no get woman, me take other woman. We take baby woman. Fuck him. Admit to your own mistakes. And also, the justice system doesn't allow for people to admit their mistakes or to not make those mistakes in the first place because they're just playing the same game that everybody fucking else is. They just happen to get caught. Need a complete fucking wipe of everything. Gotta figure something else out. We're doing it wrong. Money is very hard on the FBI for failing to recognize that they had a spellbound CKS sufferer on their hands and not some kind of criminal. Oh, so this guy's CKS sufferer. 'Cause we all don't get lovesick, right? We all don't see that we give each other vulnerabilities that are just abused. Or we can't take, I'm sorry, I just don't want to be with you. Or we can't just try to find a reason to be with people. Or there's so many so many options, but we're all just dicks to each other. I've done it too. You know, you're talking to someone and you decide that you don't like them anymore. So you just block them. And they get to have that ego punch that was not deserved because I wanted to boost my ego. I'm too good for you, so I'm gonna pretend like I don't give a shit how you feel. I wish I could apologize to all those people. At least one of them are dead, though, so that'll never happen. Oh, fuck this guy. The law and order treatment of people with CKS, Money wrote sternly, is the equivalent of making it a crime to have epileptic spells. False. Goddamn fuck you, false. Self-control, controlling your ego, is probably bigger than we could ever understand. Or maybe not. Maybe it's easy. Fuck you, epileptic spells. Ugh. Well then, let him take the fucking short bus. He is no novice at converting dreadful behavior into dreadful diseases. When Richard Berenson was arrested for his obscene phone calls, Money thought that such cases were similar to epilepsy too. He is becoming a familiar traveler on a path that has become a highway, presenting an enlightened medical model of quirky and criminal behavior. In retrospect, the 1980s seem to have ushered in a golden age of exoneration. When the decade began, the sociological excuse, "society made me do it," was clearly petering out, but a half-dozen disciplines combined to fill the alibi gap quite nicely. Law, psychiatry, neurology, nutrition, biology, and pop psychology all helped explain why almost nobody can really be held accountable for harmful behavior anymore. We are becoming a nation of victims, and we are running out of victimizers. Yeah, I mean, if rapists are victims now, god damn it. Law plus nutrition gave us many variations of the Twinkie defense. Sugar made me kill. Law plus dubious psychiatry gives us the promising anabolic steroid defense. A bodybuilder broke into 6 Maryland homes, set fire to 3 of them, and stole cash and jewelry. God damn. A judge ruled him guilty but not criminally responsible because his frenzied use of anabolic steroids for weightlifting left him, quote, suffering from organic personality syndrome. No jail time. Oh god, all those people on hormones. I wonder if that would do the same thing. I know, even just getting my fucking period, I will cry about everything. When I don't get fucking sleep, my hormones or whatever the fuck, my chemicals, my electricity in my body are all fucking out of whack, and I will... Can I get off murder for that? See, the problem is, you need a nice lawyer. You gotta be able to afford fucking Johnny Cochran. That's the guy with the OJ, right? Don't remember. Don't really care too much. Law plus sociological excuse in disguise offers us the, quote, homosexual panic defense. A man killed a homosexual who made a pass at him in San Francisco, then tried to argue in court that his violence was an involuntary triggering of sexual attitudes induced in him by his sheltered small-town Texas upbringing. In a way. It's... Nobody's brought up right. I think there's not many people who have communicative parents. But also, you should know not to kill people. But also, I mean, what is a pass? Was he flirting horde? Like sexual harassment? Might be, might be not. I guess the odds would maybe be low. I don't know. When you have to excuse the childish behavior, that doesn't... The law's just wrong. God damn, it's so hard to bring all the ideas from other things as well together in order to say what that bottom piece is. We all know that it has to do with agenda. Would people be homophobic in his small town if they weren't so not understanding of the differences that make people? Because it's maybe not even just homophobes. They probably don't like, I don't know, fucking kids with piercings, or there's a culture there that isn't right. Cultures are always perpetuated by shitty people. The judge wasn't having any of this, but some lawyers think that the, quote, panic defenses will soon become common. Pop psychology joined the party by conjuring up new addictions, which have been used successfully to allay guilt and get offenders off the hook. In Los Angeles, a hacker named Kevin Mitnick copped a plea after being accused of breaking into a corporate computer system and stealing an expensive security program. Interesting. Did the judge see Mitnick as one more computer nerd with no conscience? No, she saw him as the victim of an insidious space-age ailment called computer addiction, and sentenced him to a year's treatment for this new and growing impulse disorder. Bonnie and Clyde came along too soon. Nowadays, they could settle for a year at the Betty Ford Clinic as victims of compulsive bank robbing addiction. Actor Chevy Chase says he's never going back to the Ford Clinic because it's dedicated to the concept that, quote, it's not your fault that you take dope or you drink, that it's something beyond your control. A smart man. I wonder if that's why Chevy Chase is perceived as a little grumpy. Maybe he just sees some bullshit and he's like, I can't. Nobody's addressing this and nobody's listening to me, and if I say anything, I'm gonna be fucking labeled as a crazy. So I might as well just shut my mouth and just get angry. I think that keeps you addicted. If you say, I'm helpless to this problem, it keeps you addicted. I don't have any self-control. You do have self-control. I have not done any hard drugs in quite some time. I don't know if I would have if it was easier to get. I may have partaken once in a while, but it's something that you have to stop yourself. You gotta say, this isn't good for me. You have to want to stop. I wanted to stop the boozing and the drugging, but I haven't wanted to stop cigarettes enough. I'm a victim. Help. As real addictions have been converted into diseases, alcoholism, bad habits have been upscaled and transformed into addictions. Yesterday's hard-to-break smoking habit is today's nicotine addiction. Yeah, I got a hard-to-break habit of biting my fucking nails, too. It brings too much... That's the thing. Smoking, biting my nails and shit, it brings too much relief. But if the pain isn't a constant bombardment on your ego and on your sanity, and would it be easier to go about life? Sometimes too much is too much. You know, what do you care about smoking a pack a day when everybody's in your family's got cancer or dying of something, and you can't move up in the world, and you're confused because you weren't raised by good parents and you were handed over to, the government to teach you. Your opinions go left to right, up, down, and it's hard to keep track of it all. So you're like, I'm just gonna do what feels best, and drugs feel good. In pop psychology, addiction theory started out as a catchy metaphor. In love and sex, some of us behave almost as if we were addicts. Pop psych consumers loved the idea and took it quite literally. Now people freely talk of being in the grip of previously unknown addictions, ranging from sex to jogging and chocolate eating. Actress Valerie Bertinelli says she is addicted to her husband. I mean, that's just love, right? I mean, it's almost like magnetism. You just become attracted to things. There's almost like this force. The most popular addiction is to sex. And now we have earnest sex addict support groups and Sexaholics Anonymous. The only problem with sexual addiction, as marriage counselor and sexual therapist Marty Klein says, is that it doesn't exist. No matter, it's popular anyway. We've got a weird relationship with sex. It's so repressed. I don't think we're really able to explore sex at the most important part in our development. Things aren't taught. Self-control isn't really taught. Just sit in front of the TV and, go to school, learn whatever. So there's this balance of like learning self-control and being able to explore at the height of your sexuality. I think that some, if they want, because you're not supposed to really hold back your children from doing things that are natural, or hold back your kids from exploring the world as they see fit. They need to make mistakes. It doesn't have to be with the self-control. It doesn't have to be fucking the worst mistakes. And I will never believe that an adult should have sex with a child. This whole, I don't know if it was like fucking 4chan or something, but these LGBT people who are trying to put a P at the end of that for the fucking pedophile. You don't have sex with children. However, they should be able to explore their sexuality with people among their own age groups and maturity levels in a way that they don't feel stigmatized. Because then you bring it to the darkness. You let the seedy underground decide what your children are going to do. And if their children are going to do what they're going to fucking do. I was always told, stop rubbing things against your neck. I used to take like my jump rope and scrape it against the back of my neck. And I gave myself the worst burn once because I didn't want to fucking listen. And it's not about you got to experience it. You have to know wrong before you know right, because there's so many wrongs and sometimes maybe only one right. So they have to learn that all crimes should only be committed by children. Let them learn how shitty it is to hurt someone else so that they don't do it again. And that way you hurt someone in a way that isn't going to kill them. That way children can hurt and be hurt by each other and learn the lessons from it before it becomes murder or rape or any other extreme issue. But our relationship with sex and not being able to communicate sex with partners and people during certain times and in certain cultures who aren't allowed to talk about it, or if they're just baby making machines, or even the way we treat animals. My cats are suffering because they still have their balls. They're not. You do not need to cut the balls of your animals off. If they want to hump things, if they want to figure that out, they don't spray. They don't howl all the time looking for it. They go through phases just like children. My youngest one is going through a phase right now where he's just screaming out the window because maybe he's just looking for more outside world. He's also become more detached. But my oldest cat was like that too. And once he got over a lot of it, and who knows if he has another phase, he may go through another one, but right now he's the most loving boy. He doesn't do things to hurt anybody. He's not anxious, although, oh my god, I have balls. You're projecting. Just because you want to say you're a sex addict doesn't mean that my cats are sex addicts. They're happy and they're healthy and they're whole. You really gotta cut the balls off of everything and then somehow find the line. They have been, as far as I know, like chemically castrating. There was a thing about Michael Jackson, which who knows if that's true. That may have been just an excuse to say, oh, he couldn't get his dick up. Why would he fuck kids? I don't know. But there's prisoners who have gotten chemically castrated. And they used to castrate fucking boys just to fucking sing higher. Can we reevaluate the hows and the whats and the whys of mutilating bodies in any situation? That's a big thing. I mean, even just getting your fucking tonsils taken out feels like you've been mutilated, at least, until you heal. But there are way more serious operations that people go through. And it may, for some people, be just because they're confused, or just because they were upset, or just because they don't understand what they're feeling. If anybody is thinking about chopping something off of theirs, really, please just give it some thought. Just because support comes from somewhere doesn't mean you can't find the support for the other side somewhere else, or within yourself. You were born a certain way. I don't believe that people should get nose jobs or it's probably easier for me to say because I don't got a reason to, but, I got thin lips. I got a cellulose. I got sags and this and that, and I did it to myself. Try not to mutilate your body. It's gotta really be something where you at least see the perspective on the other side before you go and, say, lob your genitalia off. I watched a video of that kind of surgery the other day. Oh my god. Why? It's so hypersexual too. A lot of the ways that you get treatment for that stuff, and why does it have to be so much about sex? If it's about love, and you feel like you were born somewhere else, at least, or born as the opposite gender, the opposite sex, don't. You're not fooling anybody, for one. So just keep what you got. Try to learn how to be proud of what you have before you give people money to do things that could possibly fucking hurt you. I couldn't even get an abscess diagnosed. And you're trusting someone with an important system of your body? Oh boy, I could go into some of that stuff, but let's hold off. Maybe when this book is over, we can, or before that, or at some point, things will come together and start fleshing out a little bit. We gotta take these little pieces and debate them and get further that way, probably. Or else I'll be talking for fucking hours about, I'll probably sound like a mad person, because you get bored, But there's so much information to say at once. A sexual therapist and marriage counselor, Marty Klein, doesn't believe that sex addition or subtraction, exists. Klein says sex addicts are told they have nothing to feel guilty about. That's the whole point of being one. In the 90s, we are probably in for a heavy wave of biological determinism. As gene mapping proceeds and the physiological correlates of behavior are discovered, we will hear even more arguments about irresistible forces. Gee, you called that one, Mr. Leo. And so-called syndromes will be tailored to political constituencies. Post-traumatic stress syndrome, which once applied narrowly to severe psychic aftershock, has splintered into many legally promising pseudo-ailments, including action addict syndrome, post-abortion syndrome, and oppression artifact disorder, which is delayed shock of oppressed peoples such as homosexuals and blacks. Will we eventually have an ailment for every constituent and every need? I mean, that post-traumatic thing, I think it still has to do with pain. There's validity, I think, in people who feel a sense of post-traumatic stress. For one, I mean, who do those men get to talk to when having to convey a pain that they were forced to feel? You're told to go in there and shoot. That's what you have to do. I don't believe in have to. I think people should, but that's another thing. You feel like you get stuck into these things, and they pay the consequence for the rest of their life. They have flashes of these horrible situations, and in a sense, I feel like I'd relate because it's the same part of the brain. Of course, I can deal with it better. I've never had to watch someone bleed out and die in a pressured situation where, but there's a lot of things that other people deal with. There's a little girl who gets molested. Of course, they're going to have anything. Your brain tries to process things. And if there's something seemingly unprocessable, it's going to keep reliving it over and over and over and over again. And for a lot of those extreme cases, time will never heal it. And the work that goes into it is so much that you can't afford going in the wrong direction with that. And a lot of times people are led in the wrong direction. I wasn't necessarily close to my mother for most of my life. Physically close, I think we were, because I lived with her often. But we could never communicate. I think the only people that you should blame for things, I don't know if that's the right way of saying that. Parents should carry the burden of the blame that children put on them. Children should not have to suffer the way that they do, especially in terms of confusion, because the parents are there to try to help them with some of that confusion. And that's not to say, oh, Mom, you made me a crackhead, so you have to buy me crack. But don't just push it off. Don't just say, oh, fucking grow up, because you didn't let them grow up. But you have to use your energy to push them in a right direction. So, in any case, there was a lot of blame that I gave my mother because she did put me in some shitty situations. She was very, oh, why don't you feel bad for me? I know you're only 3 years old, but why don't you feel bad for me? Teach me how to feel bad, you dum-dum. First off. But she never let me just talk to her about those things. It wasn't that I needed her to do something about it. Just listen to how I feel. And I would always go, well, what do you want me to do about it? I don't want you to fucking do anything about it. I want you to feel and understand and live in the moment with me where I'm telling you I hurt. And give me information, and I can give you information. And maybe we can both fucking grow. That's a whole big thing. Everything is. For everyone. But despite that, I still had to watch her die. And after this weird force of, okay, well, I have to take care of all these things. Got to pack up all my shit because I'm moving out, and I have to take care of the things that she had in place, emptying her apartment or blah, blah, blah. After all that was over, a shockwave, I guess you could describe it as. I don't like the word shock. Long story. Actually, pertinent to this. After the shockwave, I would have lots of thoughts that culminated into disappearing in my head for periods of time where I felt like I was stuck there, reliving the death moments over and over and over again. And then I got something a couple years later called trigeminal neuralgia, which came from my abscess, and no dentist will believe me, even though somehow it disappeared as the abscess did. In a sense, I think the nerves are still damaged because I haven't tried to chew anything on that side since it happened. But I still get flashes of that excruciating fucking pain. So if something that everybody has had to deal with, a teeth pain and death, if that can send me into a place where sometimes I wake up from it and I'm just screaming because it's gotten better. I've tried to control it and work through my shit, and that's why I don't like the word shock, because I would describe that teeth pain as shock. But if I could feel that, imagine someone who has to go in a place and start shooting it up and getting fucking kids caught in the crossfire or something, or killing innocent people, or having to be involved in an explosion. Like, I can't imagine. But there's also people who have had to deal with way worse than me who weren't in the military. But that doesn't mean that we should be there for each other, goddammit. Because we all feel a pain, and we should all start listening to each other. I will listen if anybody ever wants to tell me how they feel about something that they went through. I will fucking cry with you. I can't help it. I've become such a fucking sympathetic loser. I have a lot of empathy for everything, because I know we were all children once, and children don't ever, ever, ever deserve to hurt. They will cause their own hurt eventually. They don't need what their parents or what their culture puts on them, or what their neighborhood, whatever, their schools. They will cause their own hurt, and they will learn from it, and they will become stronger. We were all children, and we all at one point needed protection that we didn't get. And now we have to recover from that as adults. And that's why I think it's just children telling children what to do. The problem with all this is that you can't run a society or cope with its problems if people are not held accountable for what they do. We seem hell-bent on depicting ourselves at the mercy of ever more irresistible forces. The way we are headed, the only generally acknowledged responsibility for our actions may be to explain them away on Nightline. When's Nightline going to be on Nightline? Why didn't Epstein use any of these stupid things? He probably had enough money. You still hurt kids, you piece of shit. The first step of feeling better is to know that you hurt as a child. So why the fuck would you hurt another child? If you do that, you've never taken any steps to better yourself, and you probably don't deserve shit. I don't know, slippery fucking slope. Poor Prince Andrew, he had to have sex with little girls to 'Cause he couldn't be king. I'll never be king 'cause Charles is older than me. I'm a party guy. Give me your babies so I can put them in my mouth. Nasty bitch. I wonder what I would do, what other people would do. Say you were put in a position where someone in your family, who you were in your immediate family, was hurting someone. Whose side do you take? In reality, that's Lizzie's son. You know? Do you just call him out? I mean, there are some just... If you were a better mother, she probably wouldn't... He probably wouldn't have turned out like that anyway, so... I guess it's just one of those things. I don't think if you've done everything you could to make a good boy or girl, to show them the way, then you probably wouldn't have those problems to begin with. I think it's paradoxical or something. Being your own grandma or some shit. Going into the past, you can't really... That'll never happen. We'll never go to the past. But you wouldn't have to think about these questions if... Because I don't think these things are diseases or addictions. They're the results of pain. Even if it's arbitrary pain. But who knows? Who knows what Princely Prince fucking Drew went through in his childhood. But frankly, I don't have the energy to fucking care about him when he hurt other people. There's a hierarchy of giving a shit about people. And if there's children underneath you who have been hurt by you, then wait your fucking turn. You gotta make sure that these kids are recovering from what you fucking done to them. The Steve Howe case shows how an imaginative defense made a shambles of Major League Baseball's drug control regulations. Howe, banned from baseball for life for a long series of cocaine violations, beat the rap in arbitration. The players' union successfully argued that he was a victim of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. What does that have to do with fucking coke? The novelty here is that apparently no one had ever thought of using ADHD, a diagnosis usually referring to hyperactive children, which also I think is fucking bullshit. You should be glad that children have fucking energy. Let them fucking run around, and I give them a good environment to run around in. And ADHD, I've got a feeling I felt like at one point I had fucking ADHD. But I was trapped in a fucking apartment in an urban area because my mother was scared of me going out on my own. So where does that energy go? Stop bouncing around. Stop being excited about things. Stop, maybe there's something wrong with you. Can't pay attention in school because all you want to do is physical activities and, playing around instead of sitting and learning about something that isn't even fucking explained to you very well. Well, let me just sit here in silence and be confused. That's ADHD. Maybe. Like I said, I don't fucking know everything, but these are my theories. What are they based on? How do I count the ways? I've been a people observer. I've been a detective of fucking life for probably my entire life. I've always had unanswered questions that have bothered me for decades. And the more information I got, you don't just stop at, this must be the answer because somebody said it was the answer. You go, okay, there's your answer. Here's this other guy's answer. This is what I've observed. This is the anecdotal things that I've heard from other people. And you put it all together and you come up with a theory. And that's my theory. These are my theories. Obviously something's wrong. The novelty here is that apparently no one had ever thought of using ADHD, a diagnosis usually referring to hyperactive children, to excuse drug behavior in a 34-year-old. But it worked. Like gold lying around inside mountains, psychiatric syndromes and disorders are there to be mined. In Milwaukee earlier this year, an imaginative defense lawyer cited cultural psychosis as the reason why one teenage girl shot and killed another girl for her leather coat. Society, in this case the violence of inner-city life, conditioned her into thinking that problems are resolved by gunfire. There is a case for that. I'm not going to say it's a fucking disease. I'm not going to say it's a fucking illness or a disorder. You just were wrong. I mean, of course, as she's a teenager, not only are her hormones a roar, but she's probably learned from her surroundings that that's what you do. Of course, it's fucking still goddamn terrible. But what did they do besides get her off the hook? Is there any help? What were her parents like? What? So much to fix in the world and not enough love. There is a version of The Devil Made Me Do It, not very far from post-traumatic stress syndrome, which shows signs of developing into an all-purpose excuse, covering almost every variety of ugly behavior undertaken in the wake of some other ugly behavior. The director of Chicago's Community Mental Health Council argues that the predatory aggression of city life can cause PTSS. Isn't that just culture? Isn't that just society? Isn't that the same kind of toxic behavior from that other column with the art show? There's a predatory behavior that's, it's systemic in life. Everything is so predatory. We fight to get the best seats. We fight for fucking toilet paper. We fight for everything. We just hurt anybody we can get our hands on. While the people with their monocles are like, barbarians. Well, they do the same fucking shit. They're predatory towards each other all the time. Being so rich and, having to fight in this climate for more stuff. Everything's predatory. I think because there's not enough influence from women. There's not enough influence from women to think about the children. We create life. We should be protecting it. But instead, the men play while the women feel emotions. And then we end up just becoming them. This whole fucking, women in the work field and women doing this and that. Women trying to become presidents, still playing the same game that the men would be playing. Hillary Clinton is not a woman. I guess I shouldn't say that. Hillary Clinton, biologically, is probably a woman. But she plays the man's game. If she was president, there would not be a woman in office. There wouldn't be estrogenical representation. You go through all that shit and goes, who's getting hurt because somebody has an agenda and there are pawns? You cut it out. If I've had sons, how am I gonna bring myself to put somebody else's son in harm's way for a political agenda? I understand that we still there's always going to be bad guys and we're always going to need protection, but you don't hurt when you don't need to hurt. I don't even know what that was about. What was that fucking tangent about? Psychiatric syndromes and disorders are there to be mined. Nope. Oh, that girl who lived in the inner city, but she made a decision based on what was probably around her. She deserves to feel the guilt. A child made a mistake, and she should probably want to pay for it the rest of her life. Not by being in prison, that doesn't fucking do anything. Prison probably never helped a single goddamn person. Let me just punish you like a child. Children should not be punished in a way that isn't conducive to learning. Oh, you did a thing that I didn't like, I'm going to hit you, I'm going to send you to your room, let's not talk about it, what mistake did you make, what are you going to do to make it better? At least I haven't seen it. So, the director of Chicago's Community Mental Health Council argues that predatory aggression of city life can cause PTSS. I think it's maybe that's an anxiety, maybe that's pushing someone in a certain direction, but I don't think that's PTSD. I think there's a very specific thing that you could categorize as PTSD that goes on in your brain. There's an action that happens in your mind that's very specific to PTSD. Whatever the consequences of feeling that thing in your brain is not PTSD, but the result of it. I mean, if this girl had seen lots of people get shot, and she had flashbacks of it where she got stuck in the memories, and maybe shooting someone was a result of that, but that was not. Who knows? I mean, they probably didn't go very far. She won the case, the end. Case closed. This sounds as though it would make almost anyone arrested in a rough neighborhood eligible for PTSS defense. I mean, yeah. What about even schools? Schools are so fucking terrible. The way children treat each other and the hierarchies that they fight for, and everybody could have PTSS. Do we all die? Do we not all see somebody else die? Anybody who watches a fucking Disney movie? Anybody who has to deal with cancer? Anybody who flips the channel and sees House or something, you know? I've never watched House, but I imagine if it's in a hospital, people die. Everything can give you stress, especially if you're confused about it. It should be said, however, that people at the top of society are far more likely to get away with psychologized and neurologized excuses than people in rough neighborhoods. Yeah, no shit. If you can't afford a good lawyer, how are you going to get away with abducting a 14-year-old? But that guy did. Judge fucking Poopy Head. John Money offered his epilepsy analogies, not after drive-by shootings, but in defense of a college president and a chief judge. Money was hardly the first to smother the Watchler case in dubious psychiatry. From the day of Watchler's arrest, he was hustled off to a hospital with a psychiatric ward, not a jail. The newspapers have bristled with the terminology of psychological excuse. Stress, sickness, aberration. It must be attributable to some illness, said one former justice. Yeah, it's communication and love. We're all a bunch of fucking black holes of negative energy, so of course, how else are we going to react but to do the same thing? And if a black hole comes hurling at you, trying to suck up all your stuff, I mean, what else can you do but try to do the same? The psychologized vocabulary of moral evasion afflicts the whole society. But is it the most corrosive when it lets the powerful off the hook? If a society is constantly being corrupted from the top, as ours is, it is crucial to our sense of justice that high-placed perpetuators be held accountable and not disappear into the mists of psychology. I mean, they're probably just as fucking confused as everybody who doesn't make a lot of money, but that's not a fucking excuse. And they do have... Do they have way more opportunity than everybody else to be better people? I think they have a better opportunity to be worse people. Do they? Equal opportunity bullshit. We all just need to learn. It should just be thought. If you're ever in a position of power, you should know that it comes with being an example and a leader. You have to be Do as I do, not as the do as I say, not as I do. My parents did that. Plenty of people's parents did that, and it's stupid. You have to be an example. When you're an adult, you have to be an example for your children. You have to be an example for your underlings. You have to be an example for the world. It doesn't matter that this person gets away with this, so I should be able to. I thought about it too. I mean, hearing about basically in California making it legal to shoplift under $1,000, I went, fuck, I wish I lived in California. I'd take fucking everything, but I would be quite the contrarian then. I mean, fuck CVS. Also, could you steal pain pills then, too? And is it $1,000 under what your insurance would cover? Like, if it was AIDS medicine and you had like 3 pills and it was like $6,000 cash, you're going to jail. But if my insurance covered it and it was only like $800, I don't know what the going price is of that. Would I be able to get away with it? I don't have AIDS, so I don't need AIDS pills, but I don't know. It's definitely not the way to go about it. But we're all suffocating. We are all fucking suffocating under the weight of the do as I say, not as I do fucking problem. If you get to be an asshole, if you, fat governor from fucking New Jersey, gets to go out on a beach when it's closed, then I'm gonna fucking do whatever. It doesn't matter you make it fucking illegal. Laws are just there to fucking protect people who want to keep you in place. Why don't we just be good to each other? It's hard because everybody wants to not be good to you. I think even in essence, somebody comes in, breaks into your fucking house, holds a gun to your head, and steals your shit. Higher road. You should let them just do it and feel bad for them because they were a kid once, but I wouldn't be able to do that. I don't know. I don't even know if that's the argument that I want to make. You should always protect yourself. Because there's always going to be someone who's going to try to take advantage of you. Survival should be the first instinct. And it's not with a lot of people. Why else would people want to kill themselves all the time? Why would death be a meme instead of something we seriously discuss? I want to keep reading. But I think it's time that I stop. For another day. Part 3 coming soon. I hope this will continue to, or may one day, benefit you in some way. I hope I'm not wasting my breath. I know when I watch some people who I can feel a camaraderie with because they have some of the same thoughts that I do. I always feel, left out because it's never 100%. A lot of these red guys, they got a lot of truth to what they say. However, they also have some not truth. It becomes a fucking two-sided thing again instead of going, hey, where do we meet in the middle? Let's start from there. What can we both agree on and why? What's the truth? The truth is that I am fucking exhausted. Feels weird. I don't know how to end this. Still struggling with, the recording thing. I'm certainly not expressing myself the way I can with the people that are close to me. But I'm gonna keep trying. If you have questions, if there's something you want me to explain better so that you don't necessarily disagree the most with me, or maybe something that you just want to hear my rebuttal about, or if you want to put your 2 cents in. I mean, this is still supposed to be a conversation. So, I just posted my first video, if you can even call it that. It's a picture with voices behind it, with my voice in particular. I'm nervous as all shit, because I get angry. Of course, I can't control how I feel about things. Nobody can control how they feel about things in the instant that they feel it. But that doesn't mean you don't go back and review it. But there are times I get really mad about certain things, and I just have to sit with it for a while until I realize it's not what the factors all are. And go, maybe I shouldn't let this affect me as much as it does. Maybe I'm being a little emotional because I haven't slept in a week. It certainly saves on broken dishes, if you catch my drift. I hope there's at least one person out here who finds comfort in differing opinions. I hope there's someone out there that I can find comfort in, knowing that we may not be alone, that even if we disagree, we can talk about it and not let our emotions, which I believe are different than feelings, get in the way. Sometimes I get so fucking angry at myself by disagreeing with myself. Like, how dare you? All these years, and this one, I'm the victim, and the new information is who is victimizing me. It's just information. And if you gotta rework things, I mean, you gotta take walks so you don't lose your legs, right? I mean, it's just part of the daily routine. I don't know. I'm officially rambling. None of you deserve to hurt his children. You didn't, I didn't. So let's stop hurting each other and maybe try to make amends. Bye!